Hello, beautiful singers. Welcome to Jenny Lynn Voice Studio podcast. So great to be here with you today. Before I get into the podcast, I will go ahead and just remind everyone listening, if you are looking for private voice lessons over video chat, one-on-one with yours truly, go ahead and contact me at voiceofjennylynn@gmail.com to go ahead and book a complimentary audition or assessment with me, where you're going to get valuable feedback and then we can figure out if this is a good fit for us both. In addition, don't forget, guys, to look at the description box below to click into my Etsy store, where I have not only my beautiful music jewelry that I make myself, but also my ebook, A Pretty Voice. I'm trying to remember 8 Steps to Beautiful Singing, and that you can find in the description box below. So I want to get started with my little 3 to 5 minute singing tip of the day. If you are not a singer and you don't have any interest in learning how to sing, you're just a creative and you want to learn all about the content today, just go ahead and forward the podcast just a few minutes, because I'm going to be getting into, after the singing tip of the day, I'm going to talk about following your bliss. I'm going to share everything I know about following your creative bliss. So before we start that, let me give that singing tip of the day, guys. And this is really awesome and really helpful, even if you're not a singer, if you're a dancer, if you're an actress, if you're a model. Stuff like this really does help, okay, for everyone. So here we go. Guys, it's so important to sing in your primal voice. Your primal voice is a really fancy way of me just saying your most natural speaking voice, okay? So like we sing the way that we speak. The techniques that I teach in my studio are a fusion between bel canto vocal technique, which is like old school operatic tradition, rooted in Italy, all the way to the modern day speech level singing, okay? Just singing the way you speak. So for example, if I say this phrase, West Side Story Dancers, and then I sing it, West Side Story Dancers, you're going to notice they sound the same. If I say rainbows everywhere around me and then go rainbows everywhere around me, right? I sound exactly the same. So really what you want to do when you're learning to sing is you want to match your singing voice with your speaking voice. And the best way to do that is just to say a phrase, any phrase, maybe open up a book or a magazine, and just say a sentence. April walks down the street, and then sing it on just any tone you make up, anything. April walks down the street, anything. Let's try another one. You guys can, of course, do this while you're listening along on the podcast. I watch TV every day. I watch TV every day. Okay, we'll do one more. Manhattan is the most glorious city. Manhattan is the most glorious city. Okay, so you guys will notice that my speaking voice and my singing voice is a match. You will notice that the same vibrations you get when you speak. Now, if you'll just simply place your hand on your collarbone and just say, hello. Say it again. Hello. You're going to feel little vibrations in your collarbone. If you place your hands on your cheeks and just say, hello. Hello. You will feel little vibrations through the sinuses, behind the nose, like all of the bones in our body actually have little tiny holes in them, and they resonate. That's all resonance is you can just feel that sort of resonance or that little vibration throughout the different bone structures, particularly starting with the collarbone and then going all the way up through the face and even into like the skull and the head, okay? So that is no different when you speak or sing. So if I say, "Hello, April, how are you?" and I just say it with my hand on my collarbone, I can feel the buzzing there. If I place my hand on my cheeks and I say, "Hello, April, good afternoon," I can feel little tiny buzzes all throughout my face. If I place my hands on my head and I go, "April, how are you?" Not much, but I can feel a little tiny bit of buzzing in my head. And that's just resonance. That's all it is. It's just, it happens naturally when we speak. And then it happens naturally when we sing. So I'm going to go ahead and place my hand on my collarbone and say, "April is so pretty today." Go ahead and sing that. And you can feel your collarbone just resonating just a little bit. Hands on the cheeks, guys. "April is so pretty today." Go ahead and sing that. Great. Hands on the head. Cup the head. Fully cup it with both hands. "April is so pretty today." Go ahead and sing that. All right. So for me personally, I feel the most resonance in my collarbone, followed by my face, my cheeks, my sinuses, behind my nose, and then lastly up in my head. Literally, like if I were to cup my head, my skull, I can feel little vibrations, particularly the higher I go. Guys, it's no different when you speak. It's the same kind of thing. And so you just want to be paying attention this week to matching your singing voice with your speaking voice, okay? Go ahead, if you're working on a song, let's pretend I'm practicing that song by the Fugees with Lauryn Hill, okay? So let's pretend I'm practicing the song. I'm going to just say a phrase and then sing it. And I'm just going to try to place my hand on my collarbone, my cheeks, my head, maybe switch it up depending on the phrase, in order to feel a little bit of buzzing and in order to feel like my singing voice is matching my speaking voice. So hands are on my collarbone and I go, "Strumming my pain with his fingers." I feel a little vibration and then I sing it. "Strumming my pain with his fingers." Okay, that sounded pretty good. That matched. Hands on my cheeks. "Singing my life with his words." Singing my life with his words. Nice. Hands on the head. Killing me softly with his song. Killing me softly with his song. Killing me softly with his song. And then I'll put him back on the collarbone. Telling my whole life. And say it strong, not screaming, but say it with confidence. Telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly with his song. Now notice, guys, my bottom notes don't bottom out. They don't go, telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly. Right? That's kind of just like bottoming out. It's not matching my singing voice to my speaking voice. Telling my whole life with his words. Fill it up in the head, up in the face. Killing me softly. So the difference is softly and softly. Or softly. Right? The last two they're not a match. So you have to match everything with your speaking voice. All right, that's it. That's the tip of the day. I hope that helps, guys. Again, contact me if you're interested in one-on-one private video chat voice lessons. If you'd like to have a complimentary audition assessment with me, it's voiceofjennylyn@gmail.com. Okay, guys, now I get to go back into my baby voice. So yeah, that's like my work voice, right? I'm like a little bit more, a little stronger, a little more in my masculine energy, a little more like focused and pointed. But when I do podcasts, and by the way, I'm literally laying down in my bed. This whole time I've been laying down in my bed doing this podcast, which is my favorite way to do a podcast, right here on my iPhone. I like to go into my softer baby voice. Okay, so I want to talk about following your bliss and why this is so important for singers, so important for musicians, so important for artists of any type. There's just no other way to do it. And I believe that the people you see that are thriving in their particular little genre, little area, whatever it might be, whether they're a pop singer, whether they're a jazz singer, whether they're singing for Disney at Disneyland, whether they're singing in bars and clubs, I think and truly believe that the ones that you see that are really thriving, they're happy. They're filled with joy. They might be filled with joy even in circumstances or with repertoire or with, certain opportunities that would not fill you or me with joy. That sort of joy comes naturally when we are in alignment with what we love to sing, what we love to do, and we're going about it our way. Remember that song by Frank Sinatra, My Way? I love that song. That was one of my mom's favorite songs, but I did it my way. Yeah, so everything he did was his way. Whoever wrote that song. And I think it fit Frank Sinatra so well. And I don't think anyone could have done that song the way he did it, with his sort of aggressive and assertive way, about him. But so guys, something that's happened throughout my career. So I've been a singer my whole life, really. About age 10, I started singing like in professional children's choruses, things like that, actually going on, real performances or performing sometimes live on TV or traveling, to different places. So even though it was a chorus, that is one type of professional singing. There are singers out there that make the bulk of their income being chorus singers in professional choruses, probably being section leaders and solo, paid soloists for that particular chorus. But that's just a type of singing that people do. And that's really where I started singing professionally. And so I did that when I was about 10, and I continued to do choral singing, pretty much all through my childhood. And then I went off to college and I, sang, all through college, and I got a music scholarship, thank goodness. And then after college, I began to pursue my master's degree. And once I finished all of that, it was time to get out there, and really audition and to really try to find the right fit for me. And I thought the right fit was going to be opera. I fell in love with opera, and that was so genuine during college. I really did. I fell in love with classical music. I fell in love with bel canto vocal technique, the age-old traditional Italian vocal technique. And there was just something so magnificent about it. And I just enjoyed the process so very much. Like through undergrad and all my voice lessons, I always just had so much fun and singing in chorus and singing. And I was in like a little vocal jazz group, and we did like these cool performances and tours. And I just loved everything about refined music, which is interesting because I grew up singing more just pop style music, kind of Christian pop and regular pop music. And then when I went to college, I sort of was introduced to this whole sort of classical, more refined musical world. And I loved it just as much, in a totally different way. And classical music, sort of scratched a different itch that I had inside of me. It was very deep in my soul, and I could feel my whole body come alive when I would hear like a symphony orchestra, or when I would just hear a beautiful classical quartet, or just be able to sing side by side with an amazing pianist and just feel that energy. It was just Oh, such a glorious time. I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about how blessed I was. And also, I was so lucky in college because I went to Long Island University Post, which is kind of a small private school, about 10,000 kids in Long Island, New York. But we have this beautiful, huge, gorgeous theater, the Tillis Center, and so many amazing singers and artists came there, from the jazz great Tony Bennett to one of my favorite opera singers of all time, Kathleen Battle, to amazing symphonies and Broadway shows. And I remember, what did I see there that was so cool? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. It's skipping my mind, but I remember everything about this show. Why can't I remember the name? Amnesia, amnesia. Okay. So, we must have gone to, in a semester, for $8. I remember the tickets were $8 for students, and I'm not kidding. I must have gone to, I don't know, like anywhere from 5 to 10, like world class, amazing concerts and shows at the Tillis Center per year, which is kind of a lot when you're a broke college kid to be seeing people like Tony Bennett. It was so cool and it was so special. And I'm getting goosebumps. And then I used to go into Manhattan and I used to see the Broadway shows there. And, I visited the Lincoln Center. Thank you, God, for giving me such a glorious time of bliss in music. So anyway, I graduate from college and I get sidetracked a little from my bliss. I actually worked for a Big Four accounting firm. So the entire time I'm studying music and accounting in college, right? And I graduate and I go into a Big Four accounting firm and I'm getting ready to be an accountant. Time to be a CPA, time to put away these childish dreams that I had. So I thought, time to, just get serious. Time to make a real living. Put it all away, and let's go forward. And so I went into this Big Four accounting firm and I was beside myself with misery. I hated every moment of it. And I was terrible at the job. I must be the worst accountant that they ever hired. I'm confident there was no one worse. And I was beside myself. I was crying almost every day. I would cry on the weekends before I had to go into work. It was just so the wrong fit, guys. It was like, I've never been so out of alignment in a career. Literally, like, I've had many jobs, from bartending to waitressing to being a preschool teacher to working in other companies to, obviously I own my own business now to, I've done so many things. But I've never felt so out of alignment with my joy and my bliss as when I worked for that Big Four accounting firm. I felt like I was dying inside. And I felt like I was shriveling up. And, my parents were so proud of me and, I wanted to make them happy, of course. And I wanted them to be proud of me. And I'm Korean, Korean parents, they like to brag about how smart and accomplished their kids are. And I was never really super academic. All I ever cared about in high school was dancing, singing, and the arts. And so this was finally something I did right, my parents were finally able to brag about me and I couldn't do it. And within the first year, I was out of there. And I had to go to battle with my parents about it. And I had to sit down all my girlfriends and we all hashed it out together and we number crunched and how was I going to, pay my bills. And it was such a huge throwdown in my life. It was one of a handful of major throwdowns that I've had to do in my life in order to honor this bliss that I just felt, enraptured by, that I felt I needed to do. So I left the Big Four and then I remember getting sort of, we'll call it like part-time filler jobs. And I kid you not, I had part-time filler jobs until I was in my I don't know, maybe my 30s. like my early 30s, so my entire 20s, here I had this accounting degree. I was perfectly capable of going and getting a good job and working my way up to like, a good 6-figure salary and security. And here I was, cleaning houses, waitressing, working as a preschool teacher, nannying, like anything I could get my hands on that I could make quick money while staying focused on my bliss, which was singing. So at that time, I went back and took a bunch of prereqs to get ready for my master's degree as a, vocal singer. I ended up getting a good scholarship, and I ended up going to California Baptist University in Riverside, another fabulously gorgeous, lovely little private school. I don't know, I think it's maybe like 5,000 students, something like that. And they had a wonderful music program, and they gave me a great scholarship. So I was like, done. Let's do this. Let's get back in the swing of things. So I went and got my master's degree. And in the process, I'm like gearing up, I'm gearing up for this goal that I had. I'm finally happy again. I'm singing all the time. I'm back in choruses and singing groups and voice lessons. And, it's just like music is filling my life on every corner. And that was the only way I knew how to be happy and fulfilled. And finally, I was back in the swing of it. And I just decided I needed to be goal oriented this time. I needed to like set some high goals and accomplish them. I was not going to be, I thought to myself, I'm not going to be, one of those singers that's not working. I'm going to be a working singer, and I'd like to be famous at that, is what I thought to myself at the time. So I end up working really hard. It got to a point where I was doing voice lessons, no joke, 4 or 5 days a week. It was crazy. Putting all my money into this passion that I had, and started going on auditions as soon as I graduated from my master's degree and started booking things, which was really cool. Booked a lead role here and there, ended up getting some cool chorus work, ended up getting hired on at a church as their like sort of section leader and cantor, ended up picking up some sort of side gigs on the side, singing opportunities, ended up deciding I was going to audition for San Diego Opera, ended up getting signed for one show with them first season. Like, I felt like the ball was rolling well. I'm like, all right, girl, just keep it up, just keep booking things, keep growing, keep learning. Meanwhile, I open up my first music company, which is a company I still have, which is what you're listening to, Jenny Lynn Voice Studio. I opened that up upon, graduating from my master's degree. I start a YouTube channel. So I've got 3 things going. I've got my vocal studio going. I've got my YouTube and social media, and I've got, my actual singing gigs that I'm doing. And as I'm going along the process, I'm like, just going to be so blunt with you guys. I remember being at San Diego Opera during a rehearsal, and I remember knowing within my body this wasn't going to be forever, that I probably wasn't going to audition for them again. If I did, I probably wouldn't care if I got in or not for the next season. Something in me started to feel, the word is not dread, that's too far. Dread was what I felt when I was an accountant. It's not like that, not dread, but just kind of like I'd rather be doing something else right now. I've started feeling a little bored, a little restless, difficulty rehearsing my music and being totally prepared for these singing gigs that I had, because my heart wasn't totally in the music I was singing. All the music that I was being paid to sing was classical, and I was having this resurrection in my heart about singing more pop music again, which is what I grew up with. Remember, I grew up singing regular pop and Christian pop, and then went into classical music when I went to undergrad, which was amazing. But what I learned during that time period was that my passion for pop was like reigniting in my soul. In addition, my passion for my company, my vocal studio, was growing and burning ever stronger. I was preferring to be an entrepreneur than I was to be a performer, which I never in a million years thought would happen. I was preferring working from home than going out on another audition. I was preferring doing my YouTube channels and pumping out YouTube videos over going in for another audition. I was preferring to sing the kind of music I wanted to sing any day, all the time, rather than having to spin out the material and the repertoire that I was being paid to do. So something I learned in that process was that it was kind of, I don't really set goals anymore, guys. That's just me. I don't say, okay, I have a YouTube channel and in the next 3 years, I'd like to get 10 million views and a handful of like really high paid opportunities. I don't say stuff like that anymore because I learned upon becoming a professional classical singer that a lot of times the goal that you have or the dream that you have is not what you thought it would be. That you were enjoying the process so much of learning and growing and stretching that in and of itself was going to lead you to the right place. So I ended up kind of slowly pulling away from all of these things. I slowly stopped auditioning for roles. I slowly kind of came to a place where I was going to let go of my church job. I slowly stopped doing choral things. I slowly, came to the realization that I wasn't going to audition for San Diego or LA Opera for the next season. Like it kind of just slowly came to me over a period of like a year. And during that time, I was filling that time with things that brought me more joy, things that oftentimes confused people. So people were very confused how I gave up my Big Four accounting firm job and decided not to be a CPA, only to have to take all these like part-time filler jobs and go back to school to get a music master's degree. That made not a lot of sense to anyone, but it was joyful to me, and I would do it again. And then when I started actually getting out there and singing, getting roles and getting gigs and making money, this new thing started arising in my heart. This new sort of, it's not new, but just kind of like different aspects of my musical bliss began to emerge. And I just kept following it. So I was taking baby steps away from things that just didn't feel right, didn't feel good, maybe goals I had set that weren't really all they were cracked up to be, or maybe just weren't really great for my personality. And I was baby stepping towards things that, whether they made sense or not to other people, whether they were cool or not to other people, made sense to me because they felt good. And so I kept leaning in towards what felt right and good and joyful and in alignment with my true gifts, as opposed to in alignment with my ego or what people wanted me to be or what made me look the most pretty or fashionable. So I started focusing in more on my business of being a voice teacher. I started focusing in on my YouTube channel. I had, my singing YouTube channel. You guys can check that out. It's just my name, Jenny Lynn Chung. And then I had my voice studio channel. At the time, I think that's all I had. And I was starting to kind of focus down there more. And then what else was I doing with my time? Oh, yes, I was just spending hours alone practicing. Like, just nobody knew. I wasn't going to get any accolades. Like, no one cared. And I would sit in my office or my studio or my house, wherever I was, and I kid you not, I would be practicing Whitney Houston songs, the Mariah Carey songs that I grew up loving and always wished I could sing. But because I had a really classical trained voice, I couldn't sing those anymore. That was the problem with my type of training that I had. I was trained to become an opera singer. And my first love, which was pop music, was no longer things I could sing. I literally couldn't sing like, I had a vision of love. I would sound like this. I had a vision of love. It was weird. Like everything that came out of me was this like classical sound. And it really wasn't my primal sound. That's the truth. It really wasn't my total natural tone, but it was this sort of manufactured classical tone that I was kind of given, or that I was emulating, or that I thought I should have. And I missed pop music. I missed singing in a way that sounded really natural to me. I missed singing in English. I missed being able to go up to the high notes in like, basically a blend, my chest voice and my head voice, in that sort of strong, beautiful Broadway sound. I missed everything about it. So I spent a ton of time alone practicing. I've been working on my pop technique now for, like the last 7 years. And, you might go to my YouTube channel and be like, whatever, her pop's not that great. Like the last one I uploaded was Bound to You by Christina Aguilera from Burlesque. You could listen to that and be like, I don't think she's that great. Well, you know what? It's my bliss. It's what I love to do. So it's like my heart loves any kind of vocal music, from jazz to musical theater to opera to pop. But my first love was pop. That's why I became a singer, because of Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. That's why I became a singer, was my passion for that kind of music. And I felt my heart longing to go there. So I went there. And no one noticed and no one cared, but it was my bliss. And I started kind of letting go of goals. And it worked for me, guys. Like, I let go of goals for my YouTube channel, for example. And I think the last time I checked, I have like something of upward of 10 million views on my YouTube channel. And I get a paycheck every single month from Google. And then, so now I get to make money in my sleep when I'm singing. And then but I didn't seek that out. All I wanted to do was upload some cool pop songs and occasionally upload some beautiful classical pieces. Why? Because I loved it. I mean, my first handful of videos, nobody ever watched. I don't think anyone watched my YouTube channel for the first 2 years. And I just kept uploading and having so much fun because it was my bliss. And little did I know, that, I don't know, let's see, 4 years later or something like that, 5 years later, now I have 10 million views and I get paid for it. But that wasn't what I focused on. And then like my voice studio, I remember having, my first voice student, I was a nervous wreck, but it was so fun and they were so cute. And the dad came in and put like $100 on the piano or something like that. I can't remember. It was like each of the girls had like a long session, and I looked at the money and thought, oh my gosh, that was the easiest $100 I've ever made in my life. Like, that was so fun. I want to do that over and over. And I became obsessed with and so passionate about being the most amazing voice teacher ever. And being a voice teacher is such a dynamic, multifaceted job. I mean, it's vocal technique. I mean, you really have to know what you're talking about. People can really hurt themselves if they're singing in a way that's not healthy for their voice. I take it really seriously. I was voraciously reading and learning and growing, practicing on myself, experimenting on myself in order to bring the best for my students. And, the first 3 years, I wasn't such a great voice teacher. Bless your heart if you were in my voice studio. Thank you for being gracious to me. But I did try my best, and then the next few years I was a little better. And I would say now, like, I'm not going to lie, I think I'm the best voice teacher around. I may not be the richest. I may not be the most famous, but I think I'm the best voice teacher around. I would give my right arm to have had me as my voice teacher when I was in my 20s. I'm so passionate about it. It overcame me. And something that started with, $100 a week or less, $40 a week, whatever it was, snowballed into a whole business and a full-time living. And this amazing, blissful journey of constant learning. And me and my students, we were learning together. We were growing. The girls were going out and getting lead roles and paid gigs and, amazing opportunities. And many of them went on to start businesses or become actresses or, flew across the country to create films and amazing, creative endeavors. And it was insane. And it was so wonderful. And I just kept growing with them. I kept learning how to be a better teacher. I kept learning how to love these girls in a way that, uplifted their confidence and helped them to hold their head high and go out into the world with confidence and to sing beautifully and to sing in such a healthy way. And if any of you are listening to this podcast that have been in my studio, I remember each and every one of you, and the journey was nothing short of an honor and a privilege and a joy. And my students now know this, that it is my honor to be your teacher. And this, 50 minutes that we're spending together, once or twice a week or whatever the student's taking is the highlight of my week. And I can't fake it. And I get so excited about it. Oh, see? Oh, it never ends. Okay. And then, I created this book because I was so passionate, and then that started selling. And then I created my little jewelry line, and, I don't sell much from it, but it's a cute little jewelry line. And I definitely, have sold here and there. I usually sell at least one piece a month. It's nothing crazy, but it's really fun for me. And who knows, maybe that one piece a month in 5 years will be, 50 pieces a month. I don't know, because I've learned, guys, that when you follow your bliss, get the ego out of the way. Stop trying to impress mommy and daddy. Stop trying to make up for childhood wounds. Don't try to become an actress because your mother, who passed away when you were, 25, always told you should be an actress and a star. That's focused on a goal. I want to be a famous actress in order to feel the love that my mother gave me. That's not right. You want to focus on the joy and the process. And you just keep baby stepping towards all this stuff, whatever it is, whether it's one thing or a few different things that just light you up inside and make you happy. You become enraptured in this project or this business endeavor or, if you're truly meant to be, say, for example, a musical theater singer on Broadway, making 6 figures plus, like doing amazing, you are going to love every aspect of it. You're going to love the rehearsal time. You're going to love your voice lessons. You're going to love getting dressed up in costumes. You're going to love auditioning. Auditioning is going to somehow allure you. Girls and guys, sorry, I have a YouTube channel that's just for women. So by the way, if I sometimes say, hey girls, and also my voice studio is basically all women. So sometimes I forget, but girls and guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's the process that will enrapture you. And then the goals or the results or wherever you're supposed to be, you will end up. And you will be joyfully surprised in some ways, and in other ways you'll be like, I just somehow always knew that this was going to happen. I wasn't sure how, didn't know how I was going to get there. So, guys, it's really, I think that occasionally in life you got to throw down. Just throw down. Like I had a throw down about 3 years ago when I just kind of hit a breaking point because I was very exhausted. I had worked relentlessly and, really, really hard for many years. Yes, I was following my bliss, but I had kind of overdone it, if you know what I mean. It's a really long, I went through a breakup. There were just a couple, kind of like one of those times in your life where three or four like really big things comes to a head, and I kind of had like a little mini breakthrough. And at the end of the day, what happened was I just was really exhausted, guys. I was just overwhelmed and exhausted, and I just needed a break. And I'll tell you this, even when you're following your bliss, part of that hero's journey is sometimes you just need a break. You know, maybe it's your purpose to be a singer and you've always sung and you just know in your heart this is your calling and you'll never stop. That doesn't mean you won't need a 6-month break at some point, or even just a month break. I remember when Britney Spears back in the day took off 6 months and went back to Louisiana and chilled out and relaxed at like the height of her fame. And I remember I read about this because she was on the cover of like a teeny bopper type magazine talking about how she just needed a break. She just needed a rest. So I ended up taking a break for about a year where I didn't work. I just traveled the country. I just I was making YouTube videos and like kind of just doing fun things as they arose. But like I wasn't taking on any voice students. I didn't have any mentorship clients. I wasn't taking on any singing gigs. I kind of was just like sort of doing little things that I could do quietly, like from my hotel room. Or from my Airbnb, or from my car, or from Starbucks, because I took a whole year off and basically just rested, traveled the entire United States by car, back and forth several times, lived in New York for a little bit, lived in the South for a little bit in Charlotte, came back to California for a little bit, which just kind of like, it was just this crazy, like adventuresome, like nomad year. And I felt that that was within my bliss too. That my bliss was telling me, just take a time out. You're exhausted. You've been working really hard. You haven't had a break ever. You've just been going full steam ahead. You just went through a traumatic breakup. Like, you've got a lot going on your plate. Just take a break. And I did. And you guys, I'm not kidding. In this year, it was like a year, maybe a year and a half later, I went totally broke. I went so broke that eventually at the end, I literally slept out of my car for like 2 or 3 months. Totally traumatizing at the time. Just a part of my hero's journey, part of my story. Eventually, one of my besties called me from New York and said, I'm having a baby. Can you please move in with me? I need you to help me take care of the baby. She knew I was in trouble. She's probably sitting there at home scratching her head like, what is Jenny Lynn doing right now? Like, where is this girl? She knew I needed help. And she was one of my besties, and she reached out and she said to me, you come and you stay with me for as long as you need. And just help me with the baby. That's it. And it was glorious. And that was my next bliss. See how I keep following this joy? So now I get to hold this brand new baby. And if you guys know me, you know I love babies. So I get to hold this gorgeous little baby. I get to feed her. I get to babysit her, which was my bliss. It was one of the most precious, special, beautiful times of my life. I will never forget it. She's like a little angel to me still. Thank you, God, for that opportunity. And while I was doing that, I was able to stop living in my car. I was able to get a good bartending job. I was able to start taking voice students and clients. And I was able to put together my vocal trio, which I have now, the Songbirds. So I was able to move forward toward, kind of back into alignment with working again, and getting all that moving and getting back on my feet because I had rested for a whole year and I was ready to work. I was ready to go. I was ready to start building things and to start building them even better than they were built before. There were a lot of things that caused me to kind of hit the wall before, like, just like I said, like kind of overworking, taking on too many students and clients, just doing too much at once. I was just, part of the problem when you follow your bliss is you can stop sleeping, you can do too much, you can become a real workaholic because you're so enraptured in everything you're doing. And that definitely happened to me. Also, guys, like I was not rich. You know what I mean? Like I was I don't know how you would describe it. Like, there were some good years, there were some bad years, there were times when I made more money than others, but ultimately, like, I was a single woman living in a really expensive state called California. And, I was financially hustling and at times struggling. And, while I was following my bliss. And so when I took that whole year off and I'm like living off of credit cards and stuff, it was crazy. And ended up living out of my car at the end. I can only say that it was worth it. And all of that financial mess that I kind of got into has already been handled, dealt with, or is in the process of being dealt with now and will be fully dealt with very, very soon. So that's a long-winded way of me saying that once I got back to New York and I just had a little bit of love and a little bit of support, I ended up living with my friend for like 3 months tops. Then I ended up moving into a house, having, with my roommate, and I lived this like, just really beautiful life that I love now. And I was able to build all of these things, but I built them in a wiser way. Like, one of the big things I wanted to do was I wanted to shift my business from an in-person business where I had to be physically there. I love seeing students and clients in person, don't get me wrong, and all of my students and clients are welcome to come to my home office anytime. But what I didn't like was feeling like I was stuck in that city. It bothered me. Something about it did not fit with me, and I can't explain why. And maybe in 10 or 20 years, I'll be able to tell you why I had that intuition and that inkling and that nudge about moving, not liking that and wanting my business to be online. So one of the things I was able to do when I came to New York was to build my businesses back up, but build them in a way that I loved them. So before, I really enjoyed my businesses. I was following my bliss to the best of my ability. But when I rebuilt them in New York, it was like, ta-da! This is what I always dreamed of. This is my fantasy. It was amazing. Because I was basically like, okay, now I'm going to build everything online. And so the bulk of the money that I make now is basically from various online sources. And even, the voice lessons I give, the bulk of the voice lessons I give are online. And so it works perfectly. I feel free. I've always wanted to live in New York. That was my bliss. And I finally made it back to New York. I love babies more than anything. It was my bliss to hold this baby and nurture this baby for 3 months when I lived with my bestie. Like, I came back to New York. I love the seasons. I love the fall. I even love the summer in New York. I don't care that it's humid. I don't care that it gets hot. I love it here. I loved, being back here with all of my college friends because I went to school. My undergrad was in New York. My grad school was in California. But all of my besties from college were here. So, like, I had this, like, I came back to, like, this full, like, social life and, like, all this, like, love and support from all these people that I had known for so long that I just lived so far away from. It was just, I don't know what else to say, guys, other than following your bliss it has these up and these down moments. There's absolutely pain involved in following your bliss. It was painful for me to tell my parents at 24 that I was not going to become the prized CPA in a Big Four accounting firm the way they had hoped. It hurt my heart to disappoint my parents and then to go and have to start waiting tables, okay? All of those years of bartending, while I was, yes, a professional paid singer, but not being paid enough to, live a decent lifestyle in California. All those years of bartending were like literally, they were a lot. I had a master's degree and I was still working very physical jobs. Now, did I have fun? I'm not going to lie, I did. I'm not going to lie. All of the jobs that I talk about, that I say were like the sort of part-time filler jobs. I had a blast in every single one of them. I loved being a preschool teacher. I loved nannying. I didn't mind cleaning houses. I'm a clean freak. People that know me know I love to clean. I didn't mind bartending. I had so much fun, and I always made the best of it. But yeah, it was not like my prized moment in life. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, like look at me after all my hard work and now I'm like scraping like dirty butter and steak knives like off of a plate. Like, obviously. Like other things, like going through that year when I needed a break. Well, when you're a business owner and a singer, you don't have governmental support. You don't have unemployment. You don't have all that stuff. So in order for me to get to my bliss of living in New York and moving building my entire business again from online and, all of those changes, I had to go through a time of real poverty. I remember I was eating off the dollar mill at Del Taco. I had no money. There was a time that I had like $3 in my account and all I had was a thing of water and a big thing of sourdough bread in my car. I would shower at the gym and sleep in my car. It was crazy. I was like, I can't even believe this is happening to me. Like, but that's where my bliss took me. And I hope and pray it doesn't take you there because it was traumatizing. I mean, it took me like a year to get over it. I would cry about it whenever I would talk about it. But the only thing I could explain to people about it was that I was following my heart. My heart told me you need a break. My heart told me you're going to travel the country for a year and not work. My heart told me you're going to move to New York. My heart told me you need to focus on building things quietly, like start to build your YouTube channel and start to build your jewelry line and start to write your books and just start to kind of do this stuff that, like, if you guys know anything about those types of things, yes, you can make money from those types of things, but you often don't make money in the beginning. Like I said, I didn't start making paychecks from my YouTube channel until the last like year or so. Okay. So like these were all these things. It wasn't like I was just doing nothing. I was healing. I was getting over my breakup. I was traveling. I was watching cultures. I was learning. I was, creating things, but like I wasn't really making money. And that's just kind of what happened. So even though the truth, I really have to be careful with my story because the truth is that year I did work. I just worked on things that made me zero money. There you go. I took a year off from all of the things that made me money. And I took a year off and focused in on a handful of things that made me no money. And all of these things were things I was able to do from my computer. So I traveled the country by car. I ended up broke. I ended up homeless. At times hungry. And then voila, literally you fast forward like a year later and I'm like living in this beautiful home in New York. I have this business that's like on the up and up. I'm like, my YouTube channel's like starting to take off. Like it just doesn't stop. It was like once I got to New York, those helping hands, those mystical, they're God, working through the world, working through the universe. Those helping hands just came out and just opened everything up for me. And it felt effortless. In the past, even though I was, by the way, guys, following your joy and your bliss, it takes a little finesse. I'm telling you, you get better and better at it. And you get smarter about following your bliss so that you don't have to crash and burn the way you did before, if that makes any sense, right? So part of it is like you become smarter and wiser about the shortcut to following your bliss rather than the long road that leads you down like this horrible, awful path. I mean, guys, I could have, quit everything in California, called up my bestie in New York, said, I need to move in with you for a few months, and just moved. And I never would have ended up homeless in my car. Now I would do that, but you'd be surprised. Like when your heart is calling to you, intuition's calling to you, it gets confusing sometimes. Sometimes like you don't know where to go. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know if you can trust this inner call within your soul. You're just not sure. And so like you end up like delaying and like pussyfooting around and like taking detours and like, I don't know. And so now I think I'm much wiser. I really don't think I would ever be in that situation again. But whatever, that was my journey. That was my personal hero's journey to where I am now, which, whether I impress you or not, where I am now, I can tell you this, I'm happy. And yes, there's pain in following your bliss, but the joy, like, totally, like, overcomes the pain. There's like this constant burning candle of joy and bliss and being enraptured in your passions. And it overcomes and it washes away the tears. It washes away the sorrows. It washes away the public humiliation. It washes away your ego being bruised left and right. It washes away the trauma stories. You know what I mean, guys? It's like this flame inside of you. And as Jordan Peterson, psychologist, says, sometimes life it gets really bad, and he goes, it gets a lot worse sometimes than you ever even imagined. And I would definitely say that that's happened to me on my hero's journey more than once, where things got so bad, they were so much worse than I ever could have imagined. And then Jordan Peterson says, but what you learn is that you're made of a lot more than you ever thought you were. Or he'll say, but the funny thing is you learn that, there's a lot more to you than you thought you had. And I think that is so true. Like when you're on this journey of honoring the desires that God has put in your heart, of honoring the gifts and the talents that you've been uniquely giving, of, just sharing your gifts and talents and passions with the world, which is such a blessing to the world, you learn what you're really made of. And you're made of so much more than you ever thought you were. And you're so much stronger and resilient, and you can heal from things that feel like, I don't know if I'm going to heal from this, and you can. And you can look back and laugh at things that brought you so many tears. So that's what I've learned in my hero's journey. And I sit here in New York, in my beautiful home, and with these my amazing businesses that I love so much, and I'm able to sing what I want to sing whenever I want to sing, and I get to get paid for it in my sleep. And I have this amazing little singing group called the Songbirds, and we're having a rehearsal next week, and I can't wait. And I just pinch myself, and I'm like, how did you get here? How did you get here? Oh, yeah, it was that hero's journey you took. It was like all the pain and suffering along the way that got washed away with the joy. And like you woke up and you were like in this like happy, blissful, content, sort of quiet, still, humble space. And I looked up at the stars tonight, guys. I was sitting on my beautiful porch, warm, breezy summer night in New York, and so content and feeling still and quiet and grateful in my soul. And I looked up at the stars and I thought, dear God, what's next? What adventures will you take me on? What new people will you bring into my life? What new experiences will you have me go on? I'm game for it all. I'm also game to just kind of keep doing what I'm doing for the next several years. I'm happy as a bug in a rug. I've no complaints. It's not flashy. It's not over fancy. I'm not a millionaire, but I'm a happy woman. And I love my life. And I love my career. And, when I was, coming out of that Big Four accounting firm, I had one prayer. And I remember I looked up to God and I said, God, all I ask is that you give me a life of music. And I woke up in a life of music. and he gave that to me, and that was a gift. And I hope that, you all can be blessed by this wonderful gift that God has given me through my podcast, my YouTube channel. Maybe if you end up working with me one-on-one. Okay, so I love you all, and I just hope this is encouraging for you. And thanks for listening. Bye.